Estamos chegando ao final. Agradecemos esse cortês atendimento aos nossos pedidos e agora nós vamos ter o workshop de salvamento, o formato LOF, oportunidade de jogar como árbitro. David Lawrence, Kevin Clark. Please. And Julie, please. John. Okay,
Okay, I'd like to just start by thanking ALSUM and CIST for this opportunity to speak to you today. Lloyd's Agency are very proud to be gold sponsors of this year's ALSUM conference, and we hope to be supporters over the many years to come. We're going to this afternoon talk about Lloyd's standard form of salvage agreement, or as it's most commonly referred to, Lloyd's open form, or LOF, LOF. As we are one of the last presentations, we hope we can be both informative, but also have a little bit of fun as well. So we're going to be getting you to do some work. I'm joined on stage by two of my colleagues from Lloyd's Agency, Kevin Clark and Julie Flello. And also we're very fortunate to be joined by John Langley of Wardens and Moore's law firm in London. So as I said, it's the intention of this workshop is to be interactive. The majority of you will have red and green voting cards, yes or no. We're going to be asking you a number of questions, and we hope you'll be able to use the cards to vote on to whether you agree or not, or whether you've had any previous experience with what we're asking. So over the next hour, we're going to begin by showing you a very short video that describes in simple terms the workings and procedures of Lloyd's open form. My colleague Kevin will then provide a brief overview of some high-profile LOF cases. And then, where you get to do the majority of your work, we're going to run through an actual Lloyd's open form case. The vessel name has been changed for confidentiality, but we'll be asking you as the audience to play the role of an LOF arbitrator and consider what you believe is a fair reward for the salvors. So before we begin the video and to test out this highly sophisticated voting system, can I just ask the room to raise the green card if over the last 3 years any of you have had any involvement or an interest on board a vessel that has been involved in a Lloyd's open form? Okay, so I'm not sure the voting system is working completely. So for the next question, can I ask if any of you believe that England have a chance of winning the next World Cup at football? Okay, the voting system is working. So now a quick 4-minute video.
The international shipping business is vital to world trade. The vessels involved carry in excess of 9 billion tons of cargo annually, completing more than 4.5 million journeys. But what happens if one of these vessels, which may be transporting goods with a value of $100 million or more, runs into difficulty? If you're the ship's captain, your life may be at risk, along with the lives of your crew members. If you're the ship's owner, there's your property to think of, and that of any clients using your ship to transport their goods, as well as the risk of damage to the environment. Both of you have one priority: to effect a salvage operation as quickly and efficiently as possible. There's no time to negotiate contracts and settle terms. You just need a professional salver to assist before the situation deteriorates further and your ship and its cargo are potentially lost. Now imagine you're a salver. You have the specialist equipment available. You want to help, but you also want to know that you have an agreement in place that will reward you for your efforts. For all parties, there's one simple solution that brings clarity, security, and a timely resolution to the situation. The Lloyd's Standard Form of Salvage Agreement, better known as Lloyd's Open Form. For more than 100 years, this simple contract has acted as a standard framework that enables salvage services to be provided without delay. Managed and administered by Lloyd's, the Lloyd's Open Form carries authority that is respected around the world. When salvage services are agreed under the Lloyd's Open Form, the salver notifies the Salvage Arbitration Branch of Lloyd's, which in turn ensures that all interested parties are kept informed of developments. To protect the interests of the salver, and in order to allow the voyage to be completed, the Salvage Arbitration Branch collects security from the owners of the ship and cargo, or their insurers, who may be located all around the world. The level of security is determined by the salver. In 75% of cases, the property owners and salvers will agree on an appropriate level of reward. If, however, no agreement can be reached, the Salvage Arbitration Branch will appoint an arbitrator, a legal expert in maritime matters, to determine the level of reward which is fair to all parties and encourages salvage operations. The parties retain solicitors to gather evidence in support of their respective cases and barristers to present them to the arbitrator at a hearing. In making a decision, the arbitrator considers factors such as the amount of time taken to carry out the salvage operation, the risks presented to the salver, and the value of the property salved. The Salvage Arbitration Branch then publishes the arbitrator's award and ensures that funds are collected and forwarded to the salver prior to releasing the security. All parties have benefited. Losses to property interests have been reduced. Any delay to the voyage has been kept to a minimum. Potential environmental damage has been averted, and the salver has received a fair and appropriate reward. Simple, trusted and efficient, Lloyd's Open Form continues to support all parties involved in global maritime adventures. The international shipping business is vital to world trade.
Okay, I hope that was informative. Another quick show of the green and red cards. Can you show the green card if that helped, or the red card if you're even more confused? Okay, I'm happy with that. So my colleague Kevin Clark is now going to give a quick run through of a number of LOF cases. For each of the cases that Kevin speaks to you about, at the end of it, before we click on to the next slide, we'll again just ask for a quick show of cards as to whether you had any interest on board or whether you've heard of the case, and it was in the media here. So over to Kevin.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The first case I think you probably do recognise. It's the Rainer, the grounded off of Astrolabe Reef off of New Zealand in 2011. Unfortunately for the Rainer, the nearest suitable crane barge to discharge the containers was based in Singapore. It was of course going to take several days, if not weeks, to reach a location. Several containers were discharged using a helicopter. The helicopter, of course, has a lifting and capacity limitations, and is costly to run. David, I think, will touch on the cost of salvage services later on. Unfortunately, the Rainer broke in two later on, and the aft section remains there to this day, although the superstructure was cut off, so the aft section is in fact below the waterline. As David asked, could you show your green cards whether you had any involvement in the Rainer at all? A few, not too many. Okay, thank you. This is quite an old case. It goes back to the year 2000. in fact it's a Bunga Teratai Satu, she decided to take an unfortunate shortcut through the Great Barrier Reef off of Australia, and this is what happened. She grounded approximately 10 miles off of Cairns. Australia's laws of navigating the Great Barrier Reef were in fact changed following this event to perhaps, to perhaps prevent or hopefully prevent similar events occurring in the future. And once again, have you had involvement in this case? I know it's very old, goes back to 2000. None on this one. Perhaps one. Thank you, Jai. A more recent case, CGM Libra, grounded off of Xiamen in China in May 2011. Unlike the Rena, she was perhaps fortunate, if I can put it that way, that she grounded in a location where there was plenty of salvage equipment and a salvor on hand to assist her quickly. She was refloated very quickly, in fact, after several containers had been lightened using a crane barge, you can see in the bottom picture, and was successfully redelivered. Again, can you please show green cards if you had an involvement in this case? Not a lot, but some, thank you. This is Sealand Express, container vessel, 132,600 gross tons. She dragged anchor in bad weather after leaving Cape Town, and was blown aground on Sunset Beach, just north of Cape Town. Due to the high winds and unusual tide level when it happened, she was high up the beach, and Salvos had a bit of a struggle to refloat her. In fact, they had to hire a dredger to dredge a channel seaside of the vessel, so they could swing her around and tow her into that channel to refloat her. Once more, any involvement? I do appreciate some of these cases are quite old, so you may not have come across them. Handling Pennsylvania, I think this is quite a well-known photograph, being shown in many publications and probably appeared in many presentations. Vessel on voyage from China to Middle Eastern Europe. There was a fire in one or more of her containers, resulting in a cargo of fireworks exploding. The fireworks created a wonderful display of pyrotechnics, although the damage to the vessel and indeed most of the cargo was not as bad as that photograph suggests, and she was towed to Colombo, Sri Lanka. This is the last case I'm going to show you. It perhaps highlights one of the increasing concerns of the salvage industry, namely the growing involvement of coastal states, of coastal governments in salvage operations. The vessel had an explosion and fire in mid-Atlantic. The salvors, Smith Salvage, towed the vessel to the western approaches of the English Channel, but she had to be held there for quite a few days while the salvors sought permission to take her to a place of refuge. After many weeks of negotiations with several European countries, including France, UK, Spain, Belgium, the Netherlands and Germany, salvors finally were granted permission to tow the vessel to Wilhelmshaven in Germany, where the cargo could then be unloaded and surveyed. I like this photograph, especially because the shadow reminds me of the New York skyline. Very touching. That's all I'm going to touch on. I'm going to pass back to David now, so David can start to take you through the arbitration process. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for you to do some work. As mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we're going to run through an actual LOF case, The vessel name has been changed, as you'll see in a moment, and it's up to you to decide with your arbitrator's hat or wig on, so to speak, what a fair reward should be. So some very high-level details. We've named the vessel the BR ALSUM. It's a container vessel, 5,762 TEU capacity, built the year 2000, and at the time of the incident there were 1,725 container units on board, with 1,600 of these units having cargo within them. So, on the 26th of July, the vessel grounded on the approaches to Rio. One day later, an initial attempt to refloat the vessel on high water, utilizing 5 local tugs, failed to move her. She is well and truly stuck. The vessel is heavily aground and immobilized in a tourist area. Her forepeak tank was breached and tidal. She required professional salvage assistance. Additionally, there was a danger of financial liabilities, potential penalties being imposed by the Brazilian authorities, and deterioration of the perishable cargo. On the 28th of July, 2 days after the grounding, Lloyd's open form was agreed with the salvors. Let's assume this happened earlier this year, 2015. Now I'm going to quickly run through the services that were provided by the salvor during this case. There was prompt mobilization of a senior salvage master and his team, an initial inspection and assessment which included diving surveys, the mobilization of a naval architect, as well as installation and monitoring of a hull stress system. There was then a formulation of a salvage plan, a formulation of a pollution prevention and emergency response plan. Approval needed to be obtained, a permit for the salvage plan to be implemented, which included the provision of oil spill response. And obviously the salvor needed to identify and hire suitable tugs, a bunker barge, and a lightning vessel. That's all in the preparation before the actual work begins. Then, there was a fabrication and installation of blanks to enable the forepeak tank to be pressurized, a lightening of the heavy fuel oil to the bunker barge, scouring alongside and astern using propeller wash of tug and casualty's main engine, reflotation by towage with 3 tugs assisted by the casualty's main engine. The vessel was then safely brought to anchor. There was a reloading of the previously lightened heavy fuel oil, and then a post-refloat diving survey. So, a successful salvage operation. And this slide just shows a few of the values involved. So the ship had a value of 16 million, the bunkers 815,000, the container units 6,882,000, and the cargo inside those units just over 56 million. So a total salved fund of just over $80 million. Now we've mentioned that on the BR ALSUM we had 1,600 container units, and we're all aware that within a container unit you can have all sorts of contents. And I'm now just going to go through 2 extremes just to demonstrate that. We could obviously, as the picture shows here, have a container of recycled material that will potentially have a value of hundreds rather than thousands. Or with my best Photoshop skills, we could potentially have a container with a very high value. Now, I can't imagine anyone actually shipping a container full of gold bars around the world in a container unit. But in a recent conversation we had, we were informed of a container unit that had 10 pallets of secure viewer encryption software, whatever that is. What I can tell you, it has a very high value. So the one container unit had a value of $30 million US. I think I know the answer to this, but is anyone in the audience aware of a cargo that has more value than that within a container unit? Yeah, I'm guessing no. Okay. So in this particular case, 1,600 units, quick math calculation, each unit had an average value of 35,000 US dollars. As was mentioned in the video scribe, in 75% of cases where Lloyd's Open Form is signed, the multiple parties involved can come to an amicable resolution, so there is no need to appoint an arbitrator. However, in this case, there was no agreement, hence the reason you need to play the role of the arbitrator. I'm now going to invite two of my colleagues, my colleague Julie, to put forward the case of the Salvor to you, and John Langley from Wardens and Morse to put forward the case on behalf of property interests.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, David. As David mentioned, I am representing Salvors today, and in case there was any doubt or confusion, I've decided to dress up for you, which I hope you appreciate. And I also hope you take this into account when you are deciding your award later, as to my extra effort.
I'm representing property underwriters, so please feel free to boo Julie and cheer me at your discretion.
Thank you, John. It wasn't your turn yet. So let me start by saying it's very important to remember that immobilisation is a significant risk and carries particular weight when the fund is large and the vessel is on a liner service. Despite initial attempts to refloat the vessel using 5 tugs, her 4-pig tank was breached and tidal. She would need to be dewatered forward and lightened of bunkers and cargo, which required careful planning and execution. Professional salvage assistance was therefore required. This operation took 9 days, and expense to Salvors was $1.3 million US.
The vessel was at no risk of suffering any further damage. She was hard aground and several thousand tons out of a free-floating draft. The ship was not moving or pounding on the bottom. She could have remained in that position for weeks, if not months. I do, however, accept that professional salvage assistance was required.
Thank you, John, for accepting that important fact. It is also important to note that the vessel was heavily aground in a reported tourist area. There was also the risk that the vessel would have suffered additional damage forward when she was more aground on rock. This could have resulted in a pollution scenario.
The vessel was sitting on a gentle bottom. There were no rocks in way of the grounding area. The weather was favourable and was predicted to remain so for the foreseeable future. There was no chance of the vessel bouncing on the seabed, as the tidal range was minimal, and therefore there was no risk of a pollution incident.
It is our view that without prompt and effective professional salvage assistance, there was a high risk that the Brazilian authorities would intervene. In fact, previous experience has suggested that significant fines and potential liabilities could have been imposed.
It is customary for authorities worldwide to take an avid interest in marine casualties that occur around their coastlines. This casualty is no exception. The authorities did not physically intervene or interfere with the salvage operation, nor were any financial fines or penalties imposed on the ship owners.
As you have already heard, there were many containers on board this vessel, of which approximately 200 were refrigerated units. These contained foodstuffs such as chilled and frozen meat, fish, milk and cream products, vegetables and animal hides, which were liable to deteriorate. If power was lost, the risk of total loss of these products would have been very high.
There was only about 200 reefer containers on board. Power to the boxes was not interrupted throughout the duration of the services. Fact. Even in the long term, there is nothing to suggest that electrical power to the vessel would be lost.
Of course, we all know that these things happen. There was a risk of possible damage or even theft by local pirates of some of the cargo. However, due to the swift refloating operation by salvors, the removal of containers was not required. If containers had been lightened, this would have increased the risk of theft by pirates.
This danger would not materialize. Even if potential thieves could have physically boarded the casualty, the ship's crew remained on board and could have persuaded them to leave. Access to individual boxes and the removal of the contents off the vessel would present its own significant problems.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So whilst delivered in what we hope was a rather amusing fashion, these were true arguments that were put forward by both sides to this case, and it just highlights how, or the potential differences as to what is considered relevant and not. But hopefully with the green and red cards, you've each got in front of you a copy of Article 13. As an arbitrator, you are required to apply the criteria set out in Article 13 of the 1989 Salvage Convention, which has force in English law when assessing the award. Article 13 is set out here on the screen, but as I say, there should be an English, Spanish and Portuguese version in front of you. It's probably worth just taking a minute or two just to read through this, and then I'm going to invite John to come back up on stage and just go through a few of these points to assist you before making a final decision. So just have a quick look at the attachments in front of you.
As some of you will know, the Lloyd's Form Contract, or LOF, is governed by English law and provides for dispute resolution by way of arbitration in London, failing amicable settlement between the parties. The 1989 London Salvage Convention in front of you is part of English law, and those 10 criteria listed have to be expressly taken into account by the arbitrator in every case when making a fair and just award. What I'd like to do is just say a few sentences about the first 6 of those points. I should add that each of those criteria rank equally alongside the others. So A has no greater merit than J. Each of those items must be factored in when an award of salvage is made. So let me just say a few sentences about the first 6. A, sal value of vessel and other property. The sal value of the ship is usually adopted by taking the sound market value of the vessel and deducting any reasonable cost of repairs and associated expenses which have been incurred during the course of the salvage operation. Cargo value is usually assessed on the basis of the CIF value, less any loss or damage to the cargo. Very important to bear in mind that the values are always assessed at the date and place of termination of the salvage services, not at the date of completion of the maritime adventure or delivery of the cargo to the consignees. And obviously there can be, in certain cases, some considerable delay between the time when the LOF services terminate and the date of delivery. As some of you will also know, for GA purposes, we always take the value of the cargo at the date of discharge. B, skill and efforts of the salvors in preventing or minimizing damage to the environment. This basically covers pollution or pollution risks. If the salvors can demonstrate that they, by their own actions, prevented or minimized the risk of pollution, then they will be entitled to an enhanced award. Please note that this doesn't only simply relate to oil cargoes being carried, but most certainly incorporates also bunker oil, which of course can be a similar pollutant to cargoes. C, measure of success. How successful were the salvage operations? Were the salvors able to salve the ship, the bunkers, and all the cargo? Perhaps through no fault of the salvors, they could only salve a proportion of the cargo. Perhaps they were unable to salve all the bunkers. Maybe the bunkers were contaminated and had a nil value throughout the course of the operation. And perhaps the value of the bunkers at the end of the salvage services were nil. Nature and degree of danger. This is very important. When I give this presentation around the world, I often quote 2 examples, one at one end of the spectrum and one at the other, and I'd like to do the same thing today. Imagine a laden tanker with a main engine breakdown, adrift on a rocky lee shore in bad weather. The prospects of effecting a successful anchoring operations were low because of the lack of power on deck. And so basically the ship was at the mercy of the elements, and the prospects of a grounding scenario on rocks with an oil cargo was very high. That would inevitably lead to damage to the ship's bottom, puncture of tanks, and a potential terrible pollution spill. Okay, so that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum, let's imagine a freighter with engine problems, drifting around in the middle of the South China Sea, in the middle of summer, no urgency, but all she needs is basically a tug to make a connection and tow the ship to a place of safety. So I hope you can see the 2 extremes. Now, the vast majority of Lloyd's form cases in terms of dangers, the facts of those cases are somewhere in between. But it's a very important aspect for the arbitrator to decide. Skill and effort of the salvor salving the vessel, other property and life, speaks for itself, I think. How successful were they? What salvage activities were the salvors required to demonstrate in order to refloat the vessel and deliver her to a place of safety? Are we looking at discharge of part cargo to aid buoyancy? Are we looking at the removal of bunkers, as we are in the BR ALSUM? Are we looking at sounding surveys, diving surveys, and so on and so forth? Or are we looking at a case like the South China Sea example, where all that was needed practically was a tug to make the connection and tow? Finally, time and expenses and losses incurred by the salvors. Again, I think this is fairly self-explanatory. How long did the salvors take in what we call achieving a cure, which means delivering the vessel to a place of safety? The salvors cannot deliberately extend the period of the salvage service. They have to act reasonably, but it can be a very complicated exercise, and better to take a bit longer to make sure that there are no problems. Expenses and losses. How much did it cost the salvors to render this service? Did they have to employ stevedores, a bunker barge, barges, divers, and so on and so forth? And losses incurred by the salvors. Damage to salvors' own tugs, equipment, craft, in and about the services that were not as a result of the negligence on the part of the salvors. I'd like to talk about the other ones, but I'm afraid we haven't got time. Thank you.
So one other word just to highlight within Article 13 is encouraging. The reward shall be fixed with a view to encouraging salvage operations. What this effectively means is that as well as deciding what reward you think is relevant for this particular case, you need to be encouraging salvage companies to continue to operate, to continue to invest in new equipment, new tugs. Otherwise, as marine underwriters, when you have a major loss, there may not be a salvor there to come to the rescue. So encouraging is a key word here. So just as a slight deviation, before we make a decision on the case, we've been informed on the BR ALSUM that 3 tugs were involved in the salvage operation. It would perhaps be interesting just to get your views and to test your knowledge as to what you believe the cost of a new salvage tug would be. For those technical experts in the room, the spec of this tug in question has a 2-tunnel bow thruster, a 1-tunnel stern thruster, with a capability of a 150-ton bollard pull. So, using the highly sophisticated voting system of the green cards only at this stage, can I just see a show of green cards if you believe the value of this tug would be in the range of 5 to 10 million US dollars? Okay, there's a few there. How many of you believe the tug would be between 10 and 15 million US dollars? A few more. Between 15 million and 20 million. Have some of you seen the slides? No, and over 20 million, anyone? Okay, a fairly good spread. Just, and I must say I was very surprised when I found out the value here. But it is between 15 and 20 million US dollars. So quite a substantial investment for any salvage company, I'm sure you'll agree. So just a very quick reminder on the numbers here. The total salved fund, just over 80 million US dollars. The expenses incurred by the salvors, 1.3 million US dollars. And with a duration of salvage services of 9 days. Just to give you a little tip, it's going to be more than $1.3 million because that's the expense of the salvors. So, the moment of truth. Taking all of the factors into account and both Julie and John putting their cases forward to you, what do you consider would be a fair and encouraging award? We had hoped to be able to split you into groups, but with the number of people in the room, this is clearly not going to be practical. But can I just ask you to talk amongst yourselves for a couple of minutes, and each of you write down an amount, and then we'll go through this. And I think it's just worth highlighting that there's no right or wrong answer here. It's a view. I will share with you what the arbitrator in this case decided was a fair and reasonable award, but the purpose of this exercise is to see the variances in this room between you based on the factors, to see the range of results we may get from you. So just to take a couple of minutes, because time is against us here, just to have a discussion with the people around you and then write down a number, please. So do we have an amount on the piece of paper, or would you like some more time? A couple more minutes? Okay. So can I please ask you to raise your green card if you believe the award should be between 1 and 2 million US dollars? Just one more time, please raise your green card if you believe the award should be between 1 and 2 million US dollars. Okay, there's one or two there. Between 2 and 3 million US dollars. A few more. Between 3 and 4 million US dollars. Okay. Between 4 and 5 million US dollars. That's the most so far, okay. Between 5 and 6 million US dollars. Anyone think they should be awarded more than 10 million US dollars? So we have a Salvor in the room over here, I think. Okay, so just to reiterate, there is no right or wrong here. I will share with you what the arbitrator came up with, but I think this just demonstrates we've had between 1 and 2 and 10 plus million here. But drum roll, 4 million. So congratulations to all of you who got that right answer. A little round of applause. And just one final quote to share with you. The appeal arbitrator, Sir David Steele, not specific to this case, said the following: the award, in short, provides only a modest return to the Salvors, bearing in mind not only the work done, but the investment made over the years in training, equipment and maintenance. I don't know if we've got any more time, but that's the end of the presentation. Because we're close to closing, how about you come and see any of us after the session if you have any questions, and we'll hand back over to the chair. Thank you very much.
Bem, estamos chegando ao fim. Aliás, iniciamos agora exatamente a parte de encerramento. Foram dias muito agradáveis, né? Muito aprendizado, muita convivência, muita troca de experiência, que era exatamente o objetivo deste congresso. Muito interessante. Numa das páginas do Evangelho, em Mateus, há um episódio em que Jesus sobe ao Monte da Transfiguração com Pedro, Tiago e João. E ali aparecem Moisés e Elias. E os discípulos dizem: Senhor, é bom estar aqui. Vamos fazer 3 tendas. Uma para ti, uma para Moisés, outra para Elias. Esse espírito de confraternização, de sentimento elevado, faz com que nós queiramos estender esta permanência por mais tempo. Eu dizia à equipe que organizou esse congresso que o grande diferencial dessa equipe, tanto aqui do CIST como da ALSUM, é a harmonia. Pude participar de algumas reuniões e perceber que o espírito de harmonia, de boa vontade, de tranquilidade, permitiu que fosse organizado um congresso assim, internacional, 14 países participando, 316 inscritos, 2 dias de trabalho intenso e intensivo e absoluto bem-estar, harmonia e um alto índice de satisfação. Devemos a esta equipe, para quem eu peço um aplauso. CIST e ALSUM, devemos a todos os palestrantes que por aqui passaram, também um aplauso a eles. E devemos a vocês, porque vocês foram extraordinários na maneira como acompanharam os trabalhos, participaram dos trabalhos, vibraram com os trabalhos e pelos trabalhos. Então, um grande aplauso a vocês. Para o encerramento, chamamos aqui os nossos presidentes, José Geraldo e Érica Shaw, a Charlotte War, Mary Carmen de Serracin, por favor, porque na sequência falará Charlotte War. Conclusões e reflexões do 3º Congresso Latino-Americano de Seguros de Transporte e CASCOS, desafios para subscritores. Depois, os nossos presidentes se pronunciarão, José Geraldo e Érica, e depois teremos a apresentação do 4º Congresso Latino-Americano de Seguros Marítimos. Por favor. Uma lembrança importante. Nós devemos nos encontrar no lobby do hotel às 18 horas, na tolerância de uns 15 minutos, para sairmos para o Pacaembu, para a visita ao Museu do Futebol e o coquetel que se fará lá. Esse é um horário de pico em São Paulo, então nós devemos cumprir o horário, porque está marcado lá 19 horas. Passamos a palavra para Charlotte War.
Buenas tardes, señores y señoras. Estoy muy contenta de estar aquí en el 3er Congreso de ALSUM y quiero decir muchas felicitaciones y muchas gracias a nuestros amigos de CIST y ALSUM, Geraldo, Erika, Leonardo, por otro congreso exitoso, y todos los conferencistas para sus presentaciones muy interesantes, relevantes y también divertidos. Me gusta mucho mi amiga Julie en su chaleco de alta visibilidad y sombrero de seguridad. ¡Qué bonita! Mi trabajo ahora es muy fácil porque sus presentaciones me dieron muchas ideas, muchos temas. Quiero decir además muchas gracias a los traductores. Hablo poco español, pero sin los traductores estoy perdida. No tengo suficiente vocabulario en español para expresarme Así que ahora en inglés, lo siento. So, in English, as opposed to bad Spanish. Over the last 2 days, we have heard many different presentations on many different subjects. But actually, there have been some very central key themes that have come out of all of them. And I would summarize them as teamwork and partnership,
La instalación,
common sense, and balance. So if we look back at what we've heard over the last 2 days, Dita, who opened very clearly with what the IUMI message is currently, reminded us effectively that as insurers, we are a service industry. We need to understand our clients' needs. We need to grow with our clients. Claudio, in fact, made the very same point this afternoon when he talked about how important it was to actually work with clients on their claims. Marina, another underwriter yesterday, was talking about sharing knowledge. Guilherme, one of our clients from DHL, was telling us how important it was to talk. One of the very special things about this conference is that there are many clients, many end users in the room with us as insurers and brokers and other experts. And I've spent now nearly 30 years in the insurance industry, and for a good few of those years, I was actively separated from clients. It was not the way in the London market back in the 1980s and 1990s, certainly, for a mere claims person to be allowed to meet a client. Richard, again, another end user, but somebody who has worked in the market as well on the other side, as it were, talked a lot about two-way loyalty. And then Maria Fernanda this afternoon talked about a different type of teamwork. She talked about the teamwork within an insurer's organisation, the teamwork between the underwriters and the actuaries. And certainly what I've seen over the last few years is the development of actuaries who are not left in dark corners anymore, but actually do speak not only actuary, but whatever language their underwriters speak as well. So they're very much more embedded in the business. What about the second theme, which was common sense or reality? For me, it was very interesting listening to Carlos, the judge, yesterday, talking about how, firstly, there is so much change going on in Brazil, but also how judges, who we consider usually as being quite intelligent people, have to keep up with what's going on, and particularly the challenge of finding judges that understand anything about insurance. I can assure you that that's not a problem that's common to Brazil. We have had it in the English legal system as well, many, many very good commercial court judges, but their historic practice has been nothing to do with insurance, so they know nothing about it. And of course, one of those common sense, practical, reality things that we could do as insurers and as clients is to think about other forms of dispute resolution. We've heard a lot over the last 2 days about regulation, and I'm not going to hold myself out as an expert in the regulation of any countries other than my own. But if it is possible to have dispute resolution by means of arbitration, where you can choose your decision makers, then always a good idea to think about it. What I liked about Andy's presentation yesterday from Loas was he was talking about the value of historic knowledge, and we all put store by the importance of historic knowledge, but not to be locked down by it, not to be shackled by it, because at the end of the day we always have to think about common sense. And actually, one of the best bits of common sense was from Tony Cowie yesterday, when we're talking about cyber, anything to do with cyber, we all go, because we don't understand it. I'm still struggling to understand electricity, and so I don't really know how the internet works. But Tony made a fair point. It's still theft. Okay, yes, there's new means of doing it. In the old days, forging bills of lading used to involve that white paint You put on documents and a photocopier. Then it moved on, a bit more sophisticated, to Photoshop. Great product, name check for Adobe. But now, it doesn't need to be that. With electronic documents, no painting and photocopying, just intersect and amend. But is it in fact still the same thing, just a different method of doing it? Do we need to step back as insurers and actually say, common sense, reality, teamwork? We're a service industry. What do our clients need? They need insurance to cover the things that are going to go wrong. Now, the third point I'm going to talk about is balance. I'm not suggesting that as insurers we start running a charity. There are certain things that we are not prepared to cover. But we always have to be aware of what's going on with our clients. Another comment I loved yesterday was from Christiane. Do you remember that wonderful cartoon she had in her PowerPoint of the trapeze? And there was a monkey on the trapeze, and an elephant had jumped from the other side. And maybe the elephant was optimistic that the monkey was going to be able to catch him or her and not drop him or her. That is optimism. But optimism, if we use the monkey analogy, is perhaps the same as see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Good risk management is knowing what your risks are, even the new ones that you've got to go away and look at a little bit more. And then the last comment about common sense and reality was that wonderful example this morning with the transportation of the helicopters. They're too tall to go in ordinary containers. Let's make them taller. So practical, so common sense. And going back to Claudio's presentation on Project Cargo earlier, for those of you that weren't in this room, again, I get the sense that Liberty are very practical about what they try and do. So what about balance? Well, actually, one of the interesting discussions on balance yesterday was when Chris was talking about the reforms to English insurance law. That has been very unbalanced for the last 109 years. And the aim going forward is that it is going to be more balanced. And actually the reality, if you look at the proportionate remedies that will be going on going forward, is actually that's what insurers have been doing a lot of the time commercially. The balance also, we talk a lot about risk prevention, but proportionality comes into all of these things. Is it something that you can do but you choose not to do? Is it something that you can do but it's too expensive? To what extent actually can insurers potentially share the burden? And then, of course, balance is really what we've talked about just now with the discussion on Lloyd's Open Form. The balance between the interests of the salvor and the interests of the property interests, the insurers for the ships and the cargo. Whenever anybody tries to explain to me what a good settlement of an insurance claim looks like if you've had to get into some dispute, I always say that a good settlement leaves both sides feeling equally sick to the stomach. Neither side have quite got what they've wanted, and that really is balance. So these three themes, very practical. What underpins them? My favourite subject, education and knowledge. I've now got a 5 at the beginning of my age and I'm proud of it. But if I go a day without learning something new, and most of you are thinking, well, you could learn a bit more Spanish words and pronunciation today, thank you. If I go a day without learning something new, I've wasted that day. It doesn't have to be a big thing, it could be quite a small thing. And that's what I try and tell all my students. And I've divided my need for knowledge for today's discussion into 3 categories again. Technical. We've seen quite a lot about clauses over the last few days, and there have been quite a lot of assumptions made. about the state of knowledge of various insurance clauses. As an underwriter, as a broker, as a claims person, as a buyer of insurance, you have to know your contract wordings inside out. Insurance contracts are contracts of free negotiation. We start from a template, whether that be the Institute Cargo Clauses A, B and C, the Nordic plan that Richard referred to this morning. That's where we start. We don't always finish. And the key is then to know what amendments have been made. Also, pricing, very technical. I'm not really any wiser after the end of Maria Fernanda's fantastic presentation, but that's basically because I think I'm stupid. The key with pricing, I think, is actually the danger that I think pricing models actually pose. I'm not saying don't have pricing models before anybody throws something at me, but I think that any underwriter should be able to price a risk on a piece of paper with a pencil. Pricing models are great tools, but if you don't actually understand what's going on inside, a bit like I don't understand electricity, you're not going to know whether the price that comes out is sensible. Practical knowledge is also important, and I'm not suggesting for a moment we all ought to suddenly become experts in running logistics companies or tug companies or shipping companies. But we do need to have a practical understanding of our clients' worlds and how our clients' worlds are changing. Because only then can we really be an equal partner in the team, and can we provide that service that they need from us. And the last element of knowledge is the completely unavoidable legal knowledge. Now, one of the reasons for experts is the fact that we cannot know everything about everything, which is why I have a wonderful network of cherished legal contacts, surveyor contacts, because better go to one of them and get a very specific piece of advice. And so perhaps with the legal, better to know what you don't know than to risk. I think it was Donald Rumsfeld, US politician, who at the time was laughed at by talking about the unknown unknowns. I think now, with the wisdom of the passage of time, a lot of people have realised, actually, do you know what? I think he knows what he's talking about. Maybe not on everything, but in relation to that. So that's all I was going to say. I wish you all a happy year, and I look forward to seeing you next year. I think you know when next year is going to be, but now the time to hand over to close this year and open next year.
Bueno, creo que estamos llegando casi al final. Mil disculpas, estaba pensando qué idioma iba a hablar, pero la verdad que termino pensando si es que puedo hablar. Quiero agradecer, como comprenderán, no voy a usar mucho tiempo. Quiero agradecer muchísimo a CIST, en especial a Geraldo, su presidente, a Salvatore, a René, que han estado durante muchos meses trabajando con nosotros, con todo el equipo de CIST. Quiero agradecer muy especialmente a ALSUM, a aquellos de la Junta Directiva que han estado trabajando durante todo el año pensando cómo debe ser ese evento. Los comités han estado trabajando sobre los temas de los comités, del evento. Igualmente, como todo el equipo de ALSUM, que sigue creciendo y que está haciendo que este evento sea cada vez un mayor éxito. Han habido temas muy interesantes. Gracias a Dios, Charlotte me ayuda muchísimo porque hace un maravilloso resumen sobre el evento. Entonces, creo que esto se ha vuelto una costumbre y es la mejor de todas las costumbres que tenemos, de tenerle a Charlotte haciendo un resumen maravilloso sobre el evento. Sí creo que hay algunos temas interesantes, importantes, que se han tomado este año, pero nos quedan muchos más para el próximo año. Como saben, va a ser en Panamá. María Carmen prontamente nos va a hacer una pequeña presentación. Hablaremos algo sobre las responsabilidades marítimas. Naturalmente, después de los siniestros de Tianjin, después de los siniestros que han habido en Sandy, por ejemplo, un tema que podría pasarnos a todos juntos sería el de acumulaciones. ¿Qué más si tenemos una zona franca en Panamá? Todo esto viene con coberturas como el CTP. Me estoy un poco adelantando lo que queremos quizás hacer el próximo año. ¿En qué sentido va la conferencia? Los invito a todos ustedes a que nos acompañen en Panamá, aunque eso va a ser una tarea de Mari Carmen. Pero sí me permito en esta ocasión agradecerles a todos ustedes. 300 personas, o pasadas las 300 personas, esto es un éxito para nosotros después de tan solo 3 años. Curiosamente, tanto ALSUM como CIST tienen 3 años. Los invito a que por favor vean el e-learning, lo tenemos en español. La producción es 100% de Charlotte, ella es la maestra, así como acaba de hacer un bellísimo resumen, también hace el e-learning para ALSUM. Y en la parte de portugués empezamos a partir del 1 de marzo del próximo año. Con lo cual estamos hablando ya con CIST, ya empezamos, de hecho ya tenemos los primeros 2 módulos ya establecidos, así que los invito a que también, si quieren seguirse entrenando, que es una de las misiones de ALSUM y de CIST, que por favor lo hagan. Bueno, muchísimas gracias a todos. Solamente quiero pedirles un gran aplauso a las dos, tanto para CIST como ALSUM, quienes nos han podido apoyar muchísimo con este maravilloso evento. Gracias.
Boa tarde. Realmente é um dia de muita emoção, estamos todos muito felizes. Após mais de 1 ano de trabalho, e o desafio realmente foi muito grande, e nós gostaríamos de registrar que, pela impressão que tivemos ao longo desses 2 dias de congresso, que as expectativas foram atendidas, não é? De fato foram atendidas, e isso nos deixa realmente muito satisfeitos. Nós gostaríamos, como disse Érica, de agradecer a presença de todos vocês, dos participantes, dos palestrantes que contribuíram com o seu saber nesses 2 dias, aos patrocinadores também que nos permitiram a realização desse maravilhoso evento, e todos nós sairemos hoje um pouco mais de conhecimento ao longo do que aprendemos nesse período, não é? Como Érica disse, a nossa parceria com a ALSUM começa exatamente agora, Érica, após esse evento, com os ensinamentos ELENE que vamos desenvolver em conjunto aqui no Brasil. Como disse a Érica, salvo engano, a partir de março já teremos a disponibilidade desse ensino, que muito vai contribuir para a indústria do seguro brasileiro, em especial para a indústria do seguro de transportes, que muito carece e precisa de conhecimento. Eu serei breve, quero então por fim agradecer a presença de todos vocês e desejar sucesso ao 4º Congresso Latino-Americano de Seguro de Transporte, que será realizado no Panamá, com a nossa colega Mary, e estamos à disposição do que pudermos ajudar. Sucesso e muito obrigado a todos.
Buenas tardes a todos. Primero que todo, quiero darle las gracias a este país por la hospitalidad que me ha brindado. Solamente he aprendido 5 palabras en portugués, solamente. Y para mí ha sido un reto enorme. Ahora bien, me ha tocado cerrar y participarle y exhortarle y trasladarlo virtualmente a Panamá. A manera de historia, el Canal de Panamá fue hecho en el año 1916, únicamente para embarcaciones a granel. Hoy por hoy nadie suscribe granel en Panamá. Lo raro, ¿verdad? Luego, en el 2006, se hace un referéndum popular para hacer la ampliación de las terceras esclusas de Panamá, con sus 2 tinas reutilizables. Esto nos da la oportunidad de transportar de 3 embarcaciones de 12.000 teus, contenedores de 20 pies. Hoy por hoy son 5.000 teus únicamente. Con esta ampliación nos da también la oportunidad de tener embarcaciones post-Panamá, que son los Neo-Panamax, que son para tales contenedores que le acabo de mencionar. Pero esta ampliación no es para embarcaciones muy grandes. Quizás en el 2070 es probable que Panamá tenga otro tercer o cuarto juego de esclusa para traer las embarcaciones AAA, que todavía lo veo un poco difícil. La intención de esto es que ustedes conozcan Panamá. Ayer conversé con una persona que trabajaba en Marine y en sus primeros 5 años no conoció un barco. Es una oportunidad, un nicho de negocio para responsabilidad civil marítima. Y sí sería muy oportuno que tuviesen la oportunidad de conocer Panamá y de conocer las instalaciones. Se tiene programado a la inauguración del tercer juego de esclusa en abril del 2016. No obstante, hace media hora recibí un chat donde el Canal de Panamá y el Grupo Unido por el Canal están viendo si se pospone la ampliación del canal para el mes de noviembre y diciembre. Pero como dice Roberto Carlos, cóncavo y convexo, ¿verdad? Si vamos a tener el Congreso de ALSUM en noviembre, sería muy oportuno porque vamos a coincidir con la inauguración de este megaproyecto. A continuación, les presento el video que les traje.
De Panamá, la ruta que hace un siglo transformó los patrones del comercio internacional. Hoy, la vía acuática se prepara para entregar al mundo un canal ampliado. Se construye un tercer carril para el paso de los imponentes buques Neo-Panamax, al mismo tiempo que se profundizan y ensanchan sus cauces de navegación. 2015 es un año decisivo para la ampliación. Con la mayor parte del trabajo completado, la obra entra en su recta final. La construcción del tercer juego de esclusas, el más complejo de la ampliación, se enfoca en la instalación de equipos electromecánicos que llevará al proyecto a su fase final. La instalación de las compuertas rodantes inició en diciembre del 2014 con la inserción de las mismas en sus nichos en los complejos del Atlántico y el Pacífico. Al mismo tiempo, se procede con la ubicación de las 152 válvulas que controlarán el flujo de agua entre las cámaras de las esclusas. La edificación de diversas estructuras de control y operación avanza en cada complejo. El volumen del concreto vaciado sobrepasa los 4 millones de metros cúbicos y las tinas de reutilización que permitirán el uso de 7% menos agua en cada esclusaje están en proceso de construcción. Al norte del proyecto, en el sector Pacífico, se construyen 3 presas. Una de ellas ya concluyó y las otras 2 están en su etapa final. La inundación de las esclusas inició este año y esto abrirá el periodo de pruebas de funcionamiento y cumplimiento. En agosto se produjo el encuentro entre las estructuras de las esclusas de Cocolí y el Océano Pacífico con la ruptura del tapón sur. Y en septiembre, las aguas del Mar Caribe llegan a las esclusas de agua clara tras la remoción del tapón norte. En el cauce de acceso del Pacífico, al norte de las nuevas esclusas, se levanta otra crucial estructura del canal ampliado. La presa Borinquen 1E. Se trata de una estructura de 2.3 kilómetros de longitud, ubicada al oeste de las esclusas de Pedro Miguel. Su función será la de servir como dique entre el cauce de navegación actual a la altura del lago Miraflores y el nuevo cauce del canal ampliado, sirviendo de vía de tránsito para los buques Neo-Panamax. 50 millones de metros cúbicos de tierra y piedra fueron excavados para crear este nuevo cauce de navegación paralelo al existente desde la entrada del Corte Culebra hasta las nuevas esclusas. En septiembre se inició el llenado de este nuevo cauce con agua procedente del lago Gatún. El área mide 3.5 kilómetros de longitud, 218 metros de ancho y su fondo de excavación se encuentra a 9.14 metros sobre el nivel del mar. El cauce en el Corte Culebra ha sido dragado para hacerlo más profundo y apto para la navegación de los nuevos buques. Una tarea similar se lleva a cabo en el lago Gatún, el que en su momento de creación fuese el lago artificial más grande del mundo. Su cauce de navegación ha sido profundizado y ensanchado por fuerzas internas del Canal de Panamá. De igual forma, se instalan 33 torres de enfilamiento a lo largo del cauce de navegación. Estas sustituirán a los faros que hasta ahora han operado en la vía acuática, contribuyendo a la navegación segura y expedita. Para mejorar el suministro de agua a las nuevas operaciones del canal ampliado, se hará un incremento de 45 centímetros en su nivel máximo operativo. Con esta acción, se añadirán unos 200 millones de metros cúbicos de agua. A 7 años de su inauguración, la ampliación del Canal de Panamá afianza su avance. La entrega del canal ampliado entra en su cuenta regresiva, en donde cada pieza instalada, cada metro cúbico de concreto vaciado y cada roca excavada y dragada contribuye al progreso de este proyecto insignia de nuestra joven nación. Un siglo después de su inauguración, el Canal de Panamá ofrece a la historia del mundo un camino más amplio entre dos mares.
Este congreso será del 3 al 6 de octubre del 2016 en el Hotel Rio Plaza. Los espero poder contar con todos ustedes. Gracias. Y pueden contar conmigo para cualquier asistencia, ya sea laboral, social, lo que desean, estoy a la orden.
Por favor, um instantinho. Reforço o lembrete para que peguem seus certificados no estande da ALSUM, porque já está pronto lá à disposição de vocês. Eu falei bastante aqui sobre homem e mulher e pareceu até um conflito, mas eu quero lembrar que Victor Hugo, em um poema chamado Homem e Mulher, ele diz que Deus fez para o homem um trono, para a mulher um altar. Diante do trono nos descobrimos, diante do altar ajoelhamos. Ele diz que o homem é a águia que voa, a mulher o rouxinol que canta. Voar é dominar o espaço, cantar é conquistar a alma. Ele diz que o homem é o código, a mulher o evangelho. O código corrige, o evangelho aperfeiçoa. Ele termina por dizer: o homem, enfim, está colocado onde termina a terra, a mulher onde começa o céu. O objetivo do nosso audiolivro é mostrar que as diferenças existem, são complementares e quando o homem e a mulher as compreendem, têm a possibilidade de enriquecer a sua vida. Como temos duas mulheres aqui à frente, eu vou pedir permissão a vocês para entregar a elas os 2 exemplares que eu trouxe do audiolivro, numa homenagem a todas as senhoras e senhoritas que embelezaram o nosso Congresso. Érica é de casa e eu entrego a ela ainda hoje. Charlotte e também para Mari, e a nossa homenagem a todos vocês. De minha parte, como mestre de cerimônias, agradeço uma vez mais o carinho e a atenção de todos vocês. Presidente, encerramos.
Após essas maravilhosas palavras do JB, damos por encerrado o 3º Congresso Latino-Americano de Seguro de Transportes, agradecendo a presença de todos vocês, em especial aos visitantes estrangeiros, que esperamos que tenhamos acolhido de boa maneira. Muito obrigado a todos.
Marcou que as pessoas vão levar para casa e já preparando para o quarto CIST, né, que acontece no Panamá?
Bom, eu acho que a qualidade das apresentações foi muito boa desta vez. Também a aderência no evento foi muito grande. Tivemos, agora não lembro quantos países, mas pelo menos umas 29, 25 pessoas. Quantos países? 14 países que participaram. Então, eu acho que isso já indica quanto é valorizado este evento.
Hoje, a questão dos seguros é um assunto em pauta. Não dá para você pensar em prevenção, em gestão de riscos, se não tiver a questão do seguro.
Claro, e seguro é muito, muito importante para assegurar a continuação de negócio depois de um sinistro. Então, é a razão principal porque a gente compra seguro é para ter uma compensação no momento de um desastre. E para isso o seguro é absolutamente essencial.
Vamos aproveitar a finalização final da festa, que amanhã tem mais ainda, tem um passeio no Porto de Santos, mas hoje finaliza o último dia do 3º CIST com um coquetel. Todo mundo se confraternizando e vou aproveitar para que a senhora convide também as pessoas para participarem do 4º CIST que acontece no Panamá.
Bom, para nós foi uma grande honra poder patrocinar este coquetel hoje à noite e acho que, sem dúvida, vocês falando com qualquer participante, eles vão falar que foi muito válido, muito valioso, aprenderam muito, fizeram muitas amizades e aumentaram também o conhecimento. Então, eu realmente recomendaria para todos de passar a palavra e fazer que o 4º evento seja ainda mais bem sucedido do que este.
O próximo acontece no Panamá.
E o próximo vai ser no Panamá, exato.
Obrigado.
Muito obrigada.